A thread on X opened with a blurry shot of a thrift store VHS labeled Christmas '96 in marker. Opie said he found it in a box of dead family junk, and the tape had extra minutes that weren't home video. Anons demanded proof. Opie streamed a phone recording of the TV screen. The first part was normal. A living room, cheap tinsel, someone laughing off camera. Then the image buckled and the audio dipped into a wet hiss. I was at my desk with a cold coffee and a spreadsheet I kept pretending to care about. It was late, the kind of late where you stop making good decisions and start chasing little jolts to feel alive. X always has that same rhythm. Everybody screams fake, everybody watches anyway, everybody secretly hopes it isn't. The home video part looked stupidly real, soft focus, blown out Christmas lights, a kid sprinting past the lens, adults laughing over each other somewhere behind the camera. It felt like somebody else's memory leaking through a cracked screen. Then it stuttered into those extra minutes. The extra minutes showed the same room, same angle, but empty. No family, no laughter, just a slow, patient movement like the camera itself was being carried. Not the bouncy sway of a person walking. More like the careful glide of something that doesn't get tired. The tree was still lit, stockings still on the mantel. The couch cushions still dented like someone had just stood up and never came back. The room looked lived in, but it also looked abandoned in a way that made my throat tighten, like the air had been left behind too. The thread split instantly into camps. People argued about filters, about analog glitches, about editing, about how easy it is to fake anything if you want attention. Other Anons begged Opie to keep going, like he was holding a leash and they could feel something straining at the other end. Opie didn't do a big speech. He just posted the next clip. The camera drifted out of the living room and down the hall, stopping at a hallway mirror, holding there like it was waiting for someone to step in. No jump scare, no face in the glass, just that long pause. I watched it twice, then again, because I hated not knowing what I was supposed to notice. People screenshot and circle random pixels like it's the Zapruder film. Somebody swore the reflection showed a shape behind the camera. Somebody else called them a schizo. The meanest replies got the most laughs, and the thread kept churning like it always does. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One attachment. I opened it and my stomach dropped so hard it felt like the floor stepped away. It was a single frame, grainy, tilted a hair, of my apartment hallway, shot at my height, aimed straight at my bathroom mirror. Same narrow hall. Same cheap runner rug with the little geometric pattern I bought on sale. Same smudge on the mirror I always forget to clean. Same chip in the baseboard by the bathroom door from when I moved in and clipped it with a dumbbell. Not similar. Mine. Someone had been close enough to stand in my space and aim a camera at the one place the VHS clip had been waiting for. My first thought wasn't ghosts. It was a person. A real, breathing person with a phone and time and the kind of brain that treats strangers like toys. My hands went cold so fast they started to shake. I stood up, nearly knocked my chair over, and just listened like listening could give me a map. The apartment sounded normal. Fridge humming, heat ticking, my own breath too loud. I checked the deadbolt, checked it again, slid the chain, pressed my eye to the peephole. The hall outside was empty. No footsteps, no shadows, just the dim bulb and my neighbor's faded doormat and the stale building smell that never goes away. Empty should have been relief. It wasn't. Empty meant someone could move through it whenever they wanted. I went back to the thread because my brain needed context, like context could save me. The replies were piling up, fast and ugly. People were yelling at Opie to post more, accusing him of staging, praising him for finally good content. Opie didn't seem to be enjoying any of it. His posts got shorter, like his hand were slipping or he was trying to outrun something. Then, like a punchline, someone posted my frame in the thread. Not with my name, not with my address. Just dropped into the replies like a reaction image, captioned like it was funny. New cam angle. People reacted instantly, laughing, analyzing, cheering like it was a sports highlight. A couple of nons typed warnings about doxing and got buried under insults. Watching strangers treat my hallway like entertainment made my skin crawl in a way the VHS never did. It wasn't even fear at first. It was humiliation, like someone had ripped the door off my life and set up seats. I try to do the practical stuff because panic wants chores. I blocked the number. Another number texted anyway, stand in the mirror. No punctuation, no emoji, like a task list. I didn't answer. Any reply felt like feeding them. I changed my Wi-Fi password, even though I knew that probably wasn't it. I stared at my router page, at device names that meant nothing, trying to turn terror into a solvable problem. I unplugged my webcam, even though I haven't used it in months. I taped over my laptop camera. I pulled my blinds down and then realized I was doing it for myself, not for them, because the picture wasn't from outside. I tried to convince myself it was a prank. Like maybe someone in the building saw my door and guessed the layout. Like maybe a friend got my number and thought they were being funny. But the shot wasn't from outside my door. It was from inside the hall, in my space, at my height, dead center, like whoever took it knew exactly what to point at. And the timing lined up too perfect. Right after the mirror clip, I get a mirror frame of my own. It felt less like a haunting and more like a baton pass. Like Opie's tape had picked a new room to walk through. I paced. I checked closets. I checked behind a shower curtain like I was a child. Nothing. Just my own clutter and the sick feeling that nothing didn't mean safe, it meant waiting. I kept thinking about that VHS movement, how it didn't hurry, how it didn't wobble, like it could take all night if it wanted. I started catching myself stepping softer, not because I believed in monsters, but because I hated the idea of being heard. I typed a reply in the thread from a throwaway, something plain like, "That's an actual apartment. Stop posting this." Within seconds, anons were quoting me, mocking me, asking if I was the guy in the pic, telling me to prove it, telling me to step into the mirror then. It hit me how the internet flattens people. In their heads, I wasn't a person panicking in a hallway. I was a new angle, a new level, a new update. My phone buzzed again. New number. Another photo. This one was my front door from the outside, taken from down the hall. You could see my peephole, the scratch on the paint near the knob, the edge of my mail slot. Whoever it was had been out there while I was inside, watching me watch them. My throat tightened so hard I tasted metal. I stared at the picture like it would show a shoe or a hand or any stupid clue. It showed nothing. Just my door, perfectly centered, like a thumbnail you'd click for the next clip. The thread started calling at the spread. People stopped talking about Opie's tape and started talking about me without knowing my name. They joked about next frame is bathroom door opens. They posted countdowns. They begged for a live stream. They begged for blood with the same bored tone people use to order food. I kept telling myself to call the cops and kept imagining trying to explain that a message board was daring someone to stalk me in real time. I could already hear the sigh, the questions about drugs, the look they'd give me when I said I didn't have a suspect because the suspect was everybody. The mirror at the end of my hall stopped being furniture and started being a stage. I couldn't look at it without imagining the camera from Opie's tape sitting in my own doorway, patient, waiting. I kept picturing myself stepping into view and somewhere 100 anonymous thumbs hitting refresh. People I'll never meet leaning forward, hungry and bored and thrilled. That's what really got under my skin. Not the idea of a curse. The idea of attention that doesn't care if you're real. My phone buzzed again. New number. No image this time. Just closer. I stared down my hallway. The bathroom door sat there, closed like it always does. The mirror reflected the hall back at me, neat and empty. I could have grabbed a bag and bolted outside and slept in my car. I could have called somebody and tried to sound normal. Instead, I stood there, stuck between the mirror and my desk, between being a person and being content. I didn't run. I froze, because the worst part wasn't the paranormal bullshit. It was realizing some anonymous bastard had turned me from viewer into content, and everybody on that thread would watch it happen like it was just another fucking update. I clicked a thread titled, "I fix broken people for fun," and the Opie wrote like he was bragging about a fucking hobby. No gore pics, no theatrics, just steps. He called it adoption. He said he hunted for posts written after midnight, the ones that end in sorry, and I know I'm annoying. He said you can tell who's right by how fast they apologize for existing. Then he'd DM them, pull them off site, and do the warm blanket routine. Tells them he sees them, tells them he's proud, tells them they're different. I felt my skin crawl because I knew that tone. Soft voice, hard control. He'd believe in them for a week. He'd ask questions that look like care, but work like a survey. Who do you live with? What meds? Who checks in? Who would notice if you disappeared? He didn't laugh about it. He wrote it like a checklist. Then he started charging rent. Small at first. Prove you trust me. Prove you're serious. A selfie crying. A screenshot of a blocked friend. Skip class just once. Leave your phone in a drawer so you can breathe. He framed it as discipline. He framed it as healing. If they hesitated, he hit them with guilt. You said you wanted to change. Don't waste my time. Don't make me regret caring. He didn't say, kill yourself. He didn't have to. He just kept tightening the leash until they snapped under their own weight. The replies made me want to puke. People cheered him like he was a savage therapist. People begged for his handle like he was a celebrity coach. A couple users called him a parasite and got swarmed. Others defended him with therapy words they didn't understand. One comment said, broken people deserve to be controlled because they can't control themselves. It got awards. I stared at that shiny little badge like it was a bite mark. Opie stayed calm through the whole fight. He answered like a manager handling a complaint. He posted screenshots of people saying, "Thank you for saving me," and the crowd treated it like evidence he was a good guy. The messages looked real. Long, messy, desperate. His replies were always sweet. Always patient. Sweet as poison. I kept scrolling even though my gut told me to stop. I told myself I was learning how to spot it. What I was really doing was letting it into my room. He laid out rules like a workout plan. No contact with negative friends. No therapy unless he approved it. No meds because they numb your growth. Daily check-ins. Weekly tests. If they failed, he'd vanish for a day so they'd spiral. Then he'd return and forgive them. And they'd thank him like he'd handed them oxygen. Someone asked what happens if one of his adoptees says no. Opie wrote that they always say no at first and refusal is just fear. Another user tried to argue back, said this is abuse, said consent matters. Opie didn't defend himself. He wrote that consent gets complicated when someone is depressed. Watching people agree with that made me feel dirty, like the screen was leaving residue on my hands. Then he posted a photo. A nightstand, cheap lamp, a handwritten note with a name blacked out, and underneath it a fat stack of printed messages. All his messages, all sweet as poison. The thread split in half. Half the people went quiet, like they finally saw what it was. The other half tried to spin it. Recovery milestone. Thank you note. One guy called it an exit note and got shredded for stigmatizing. Opie didn't argue. He dropped another screenshot of someone praising him and let the crowd do the dirty work. Opie wrote a little caption under the photo about keeping receipts. People argued about whether it was staged. Someone accused him of faking the note for clout. Opie responded with another picture, closer this time, showing the stack of printed DMs with dates visible but names blurred. He said he prints them because screenshots feel temporary and paper feels final. That word, final, hit like a door slamming. I started taking my own screenshots, fast, sloppy, like my hands weren't mine. I grabbed the title, the rules, the photo, his replies. My camera roll filled with poison. Part of me wanted proof in case he got wiped. Another part of me felt like I was saving contraband, and now I'd be the one holding it. The comment section turned nastier. People fought about ethics like it was a sport. A woman said her brother D, Ed after some coach, got in his head, and Opie told her she was projecting. Another guy told her to stop trauma dumping. The crowd backed Opie because he stayed calm. Calm won. It always wins online. I sat there with my thumb hovering, heart kicking. I thought about my own old posts from college, the late night ones where I basically begged strangers to notice me. I thought about how easy it would have been for some calm voice in my inbox to feel like a lifeline. I wasn't special. I was the exact type he described. I hadn't used that account in years. I deleted it, wiped the email, started over. I told myself that was a clean break. Then a comment popped up in the thread, my old username, typed out like a tag on a toe. No explanation, just a handle. Same dumb spelling. Same numbers. My chest went hot and empty. I scrolled like it might vanish. It didn't. It sat there collecting up votes, like people recognized it. The worst part was how normal my old handle looked sitting there. Not a name, not a face, just a little string of characters, and yet it felt like my address. A couple commenters asked who it was. Someone replied that the handle used to post attention-seeking pity shit years ago. Another person, total stranger, defended me, said leave them alone, and instantly got mocked for being soft. Then a different account chimed in with Opie knows them like it was trivia. I watched them drag my old posts out like fossils, quoting lines I barely remembered writing, twisting them into a punchline, and I couldn't even fight back without confirming it was me. I wanted to scream, and I also wanted to disappear so completely there'd be nothing left to argue about. I did the dumbest thing you can do when you feel hunted. I tried to make the internet smaller by staring harder at it. I searched the username. I found scraps I didn't know existed, quotes of my posts, cache comments, an archive page with my words frozen in time. I clicked one and saw a sentence I'd forgotten I ever wrote, me calling myself a burden. For a second, I could smell my old dorm room, stale laundry, and instant noodles, like the past had crawled out of the screen. I started yanking at threads. I tried to delete old accounts I barely remembered. I filled out removal forms that go nowhere. I found a forum where someone had reposted my vent post as a joke years ago, and the replies were people laughing at it. Rage and shame fought in my chest, and I couldn't pick which one hurt worse. I texted a friend without thinking, "Do you remember my old handle?" And when they asked why, I got sharp. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't explain. I didn't want to admit that a stranger online could still reach into my past and squeeze. I went back to the thread and refreshed. Hope he didn't tag me. He just dropped the line, "You're still alive. Let's work." My hands went numb. It wasn't even under the comment. It was just placed there like he was talking to the room, but looking straight at me. Like he'd walked into my apartment without opening a door. I stood up, paced, checked my lock, checked again. I looked through the peephole and saw the same empty hallway. My brain didn't care. My brain kept building a version of him out of those words. Calm, patient, amused, waiting. I dug up an old email account I hadn't touched in forever. Password reset, security questions, the whole humiliating crawl. When I finally got in, I searched for anything that felt like him. I found a chain of messages from back then, someone checking in, someone believing, someone asking who I talked to, what meds I took, whether my friends really cared. I remembered the relief first, then the tightness I couldn't name. I'd stopped replying after a week because something in me got spooked. Now, years later, reading his thread, I couldn't pretend it was random. The cadence matched too well. The warmth that always came with a hook. The care that always wanted proof. I thought about warning the people in the comments. I pictured OP screenshotting it, twisting it, using it as bait. I pictured him banging anyone who engaged, catching them through my warning like a net. My stomach turned because even trying to help felt like feeding him. I reported the thread. I reported the photo. I reported the account. The site gave me a polite little message, like a receptionist taking a complaint she's going to throw away. The comments kept coming. People still begged for his handle. People still called him a savior. OP kept answering, calm as ever, like he wasn't talking about ruining lives, like he was just explaining a fucking hobby. I shut my laptop and still felt his fingers on my throat. A JPEG of a smiling dude in a volunteer shirt hit B with the caption, "Sane alert," and the comments went straight feral. People dug for dirt like it was sport. Someone found a decade-old DUI mugshot. Another anon posted his fiancé's Instagram. Then it turned into a vote. Ruin him or let it slide. I was on breaking my car outside the clinic, badge still clipped to my scrubs like I was some kind of good person, and I clicked because I always click. That place is basically a pack of bored assholes sniffing for blood. And the second they smell someone clean, they want to prove he's filthy too. The guy in the photo had that volunteer grin, the cheap event lanyard smile, like he just handed out water bottles at a 5K. That alone pissed people off. They started with jokes, then it turned into that hunt mode where nobody even laughs anymore. They just work. Zoom the background. Reverse image search. Pull the charity logo. Search the town name. Drop found him like they won something. When the DUI mugshot got posted, it felt like somebody rang a bell. It was old, grainy, him looking half dead and swollen, eyes down like a guy who already got punished by life. 10 years back, give or take. Didn't matter. The thread treated it like fresh meat. People typed like they were judges. DUI equals attempted murder. Volunteers are always hiding. Church dudes are freaks. It wasn't logic, it was a vibe. If you try to slow it down, you became the target. I typed leave it alone and got dogpiled. So fast my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Hi Saint. Opiism. Shut up, clinic bitch. Somebody dubbed my post history and threw my job in my face like it proved I was a sucker. And here's the sick part. Instead of closing the tab, I refreshed. I wanted to see what they do next. I want to know where the bottom was, like watching a storm roll in and pretending you're not standing in the open. Ahmad didn't show. Nobody slowed down. Someone posted his workplace number, then the church address, then the pastor's email, then his landlord's portal link. It got organized without anyone calling it that. Templates appeared. Concerned community member emails. Fake HR complaints. People bragged about calls like they were collecting badges. I told his boss he's racist. I told the church he's a predator. I told the landlord he's running drugs. They didn't need proof because the point wasn't truth, it was pressure. The fake screenshots started next. One anon made a text convo of him saying racist garbage, way over the top, like a cartoon villain. Everybody knew it was fake for about 30 seconds. Then someone reposted it cropped tighter, then someone else reposted it with confirmed, and after a few rounds it stopped being fake in people's heads. Repetition turns lies into furniture. You trip over it so many times you stop noticing it's not real. I kept telling myself I wasn't calling anyone. I wasn't making screenshots. Like that made me clean. But I did something smaller and dumber that still makes my stomach fold. I clicked his fiancé's Instagram too. I stared at their engagement photos. I checked her tag locations because I wanted to know if the docs was accurate. I didn't post it, but when someone guessed the neighborhood and it matched what I'd seen, I upvoted it. One tap, one tiny little yeah. That's how you help a mob while still feeling innocent. The next day at work, the clinic phones wouldn't stop like always, and I kept sneaking into the supply closet to check the thread like I had a damage under my skin. Now it had spin-offs. People posted his LinkedIn. Someone dropped a blurry street photo of an apartment building and claimed it was his. Someone said they left a note under his door. Someone else said they got his job to open an investigation. There was this gross pride in it, like they were doing civic duty. I watched them argue about tactics like it was a group project. Half the thread wanted to ruin him fast, the other half wanted to stretch it out. They fought over whether to hit the fiancé harder or the church harder. It was like watching people argue about where to stab someone. 2 days later, he walked into the clinic where I work. And I knew him before he even spoke because I'd stared at that volunteer smile so long I could recognize the shape of his face in motion. The smile was gone. He looked like he'd been running on fumes and adrenaline. Eyes red, skin dull. He kept rubbing his palms on his jeans like he couldn't get something off them. His phone vibrated in his pocket, and he flinched every time like the buzz was a slap. The receptionist asked for his ID, and he fumbled it, dropped it, apologized too many times. When she said his last name out loud, my stomach sank straight through the floor. That name was a target online. Now, it was a human being standing under fluorescent lights, trying to hold it together in front of strangers. He asked if we had anything for panic that doesn't make me look weak. He said it like a confession, like he was ashamed to even be there. I wanted to puke because I'd helped feed the thread. I brought him back to an exam room because I couldn't stand him exposed in the waiting area and because my hands needed something to do besides shake. I took his vitals and his pulse ran like a trapped animal. He kept swallowing. His eyes kept flicking to the door, to the little window, like he expected someone to burst in and point a camera at him. I asked the intake questions, and he locked up hard on anything that sounded like it'd go in his chart. He didn't want a record. He didn't trust anything. He kept pressing his lips together like if he opened his mouth, he'd lose it. I wanted to tell him I was sorry. I wanted to tell him I typed, "Leave it alone." That's such a coward fantasy. Like he'd pat me on the head for being less cruel than the others. So I shut up and did my job. The provider came in, did the calm voice, offered a short prescription and referrals, warned about side effects. He nodded like a man underwater. On the way out, he kept his head down and moved fast, like the parking lot had teeth. After my shift, I sat in my car and opened B again anyway, because guilt doesn't magically turn you into a better person overnight. The thread was still roaring. People celebrated every little crack in his life. He locked his socials. His job pulled him from the staff page. His fiancée went private. They called it accountability. Someone wrote, "Good. Make him feel it." Like fear was a curriculum. I scrolled and saw a comment from someone claiming they called a clinic asking if he was a patient, laughing about it like that was a punchline. My chest went tight because I couldn't tell if they were lying or if they'd actually reached into my workplace. Then that night, the board posted his engagement photo again, but cropped tight on her ring. Caption, "Sell it. Pay your debts." The whole thread turned into extortion cosplay. DM her boss. Call the jeweler. Find her parents. Make them pawn it. Somebody drafted a message to send her that started sweet and ended like a thread, and Anons copied it like it was a recipe. I hovered over the reply box and couldn't find a single sentence that didn't sound useless. I reported posts and watched nothing happen. I told myself I'd stop looking, and then I refreshed again. He deleted everything online. It didn't matter. The archive stayed. People mirrored the screenshots. They reposted the DUI mugshot like a logo. They spammed his employer with updated evidence. They emailed the church again and again with fake concern, pretending they were protecting the community while they stomped a man into the dirt. At the clinic, we started getting weird calls from block numbers asking if that volunteer guy was there, asking if we treat racists, laughing when we refused. One caller threatened to post reviews saying we protect monsters. My coworker snapped and started cussing back until I grabbed the phone and hung up. She was shaking with anger, and I realized my shaking wasn't anger at all. It was shame. It was the feeling of having helped build a machine that now reached into real rooms with real phones and real faces. Weeks passed, and the thread drifted like they always do. New targets, new votes, new people to rip apart. But I kept checking his name like a tick. His fiancée's page went dark. The volunteer group posted a bland statement about him stepping away. Nothing ever fully vanished. It just moved into mirrors and caches and paste sites. I'd search and find the same screenshots rehosted by strangers who weren't even there for the original thread. That's the part that still feels like horror to me, more than any jump scare bullshit. You can stop posting, you can delete your accounts, you can wipe your phone, and the internet keeps a copy of your worst week like it's preserving a specimen. I don't know what happened in his apartment at night when the calls wouldn't stop. I don't know what he said to his fiancée when he realized strangers knew her full name and her ring close-up in her parents' church. I just know what he looked like in that exam room. Hands shaking, eyes burned out, trying to buy a few hours of quiet without admitting he was scared. The archive stayed. The mob moved on. He didn't.